Okay, let's talk about artificial intelligence. I mean, it feels like it's absolutely everywhere, right? A new headline drops like every single day. But what's really going on under the hood? Beyond all the hype, what are the actual core ideas driving this thing? Well, we're going to demystify it for you right now in just the next 5 minutes.
It's kind of wild to think about, but the entire field of modern AI, it basically all started with this one single question asked over 70 years ago by the legendary computer scientist Alan Turing. He just asked, can machines think? And that one question, that's what kicked this whole thing off and set us on the path to where we are today.
So what is the big idea here? Well, at its most basic level, AI is really just the quest to build technology that can copy human intelligence. The ability to learn, to solve problems, and to create. But here's the thing. AI is a huge, huge umbrella term. To really get what's going on, we've got to look at what's actually underneath that umbrella.
So, to really understand that big AI umbrella, it helps to see how all the concepts are kind of nested inside each other. So let's start with the biggest picture of all, artificial intelligence. Now, tucked right inside of that is machine learning. Think of this as the main engine that learns from data to make its predictions.
And if we go one layer deeper, we find deep learning. This is a much more powerful, more advanced type of machine learning that uses these brain-like structures called neural networks. And right at the very center of it all is the thing everyone's talking about right now, generative AI. This is what uses that deep learning power to create brand new original stuff. Okay, so now that we've seen the map, let's unpack these one by one.
All right, first up, let's talk about the real workhorse of AI, machine learning. A great way to think about it is this. If AI is the car, then machine learning is the powerful engine that actually makes it go.
So here's the absolute key to understanding this. Instead of a programmer having to write a million lines of code to cover every single possible scenario, with machine learning, we just feed a system a ton of data and we let it teach itself. It learns to spot the patterns and make its own predictions. It's literally learning from experience, just like we do. So how does it actually do that learning? Well, it's mostly in 3 different ways. First, you've got supervised learning. That's where you give it labeled examples, like 1,000 pictures of cats that are all labeled cat. Simple enough. Then there's unsupervised learning, where you just dump a whole bunch of data on it and say, here, you figure out the patterns. And finally, you have reinforcement learning, where the machine learns through trial and error, kind of like training a pet. It gets rewards for good decisions, and it learns what works over time.
Okay, so now let's level up. We've got our engine, right? Machine learning? Well, if that's the engine, then deep learning is like strapping a massive turbocharger onto it. It gives it a huge, huge boost in both power and capability. And the real secret sauce here is how it's modeled after the human brain. See, deep learning uses these super complex things called neural networks that have tons of layers, and they're designed to mimic how our own brain cells connect and fire. It's this deep, layered structure that lets it understand information in a way that's, well, just way more sophisticated. So why does that brain-like structure matter so much? Here's why. A crazy 80% of all the data in the world today isn't organized in neat little spreadsheets. Nope, it's messy. It's unstructured stuff like text from an email, images, videos, audio clips, all the chaotic data of real life. And it's these deep, layered networks in deep learning that finally give AI the power to make sense of all that chaos.
And believe me, this isn't just some abstract, theoretical stuff. This is the tech that powers the AI you use literally every single day. When your phone understands what you're saying, that's natural language processing, or NLP. When your photo app automatically tags your friends, that's computer vision. All of that cool stuff. It's all made possible by deep learning. Okay, and that brings us to the really exciting part, the part everyone's been waiting for. We're talking about that massive creative leap forward we call generative AI. Now, this is the absolute game changer. Everything we've talked about so far, it's all been about analyzing data that already exists, understanding it, categorizing it. Generative AI is totally different. It takes all that understanding and then it creates something brand new, something original. We're talking new images, new music, new code, you name it. So how on earth does it actually work? Well, you can kind of break it down into 3 big steps. First, a massive foundation model gets trained on just an unbelievable amount of data, basically a huge chunk of the internet. Then, that big model is fine-tuned for a more specific task, like, say, writing poetry. And finally, you come along and give it a prompt, and it uses everything it's learned to generate a completely new and unique response just for you.
All right, so we've peeled back the layers of the technology, right? We've seen how it all fits together. But what does all of this actually mean for us, in the real world, today and tomorrow? Let's zoom out a bit from the theory and look at the reality.
I mean, the potential benefits here are just enormous. Think about it. AI can take over all those boring, repetitive jobs, freeing us up to do more creative and strategic work. It can crunch numbers like never before to help us make smarter, data-driven decisions. It can cut down on human error, provide services 24/7, and just generally give productivity a massive shot in the arm.
But, and this is a big but, all this power comes with some serious challenges. First off, data quality is everything. Garbage in, garbage out. If the data you train it on is biased or just plain wrong, the results will be too. The models themselves are incredibly valuable, so you have to protect them from being stolen or messed with. And then there's maybe the biggest challenge of all, what we call explainability. Sometimes these systems are so complex they're like a black box. Even the people who built them don't know exactly how they got to a specific answer. And you can see why that's a huge problem for things like medicine or finance.
And really, that brings us to a super important point to remember. The goal of AI, at least right now, isn't to replace people. Not at all. It's to be a tool, a powerful tool that enhances our own intelligence. Think of it like an expert co-pilot, helping us navigate and adding massive value to our own judgment and expertise.
Ultimately, AI is a tool that can amplify our own human capabilities in ways we're really just starting to wrap our heads around. The promise is incredible, for sure, but its future, that's not written in stone. So the real question isn't what AI will do, but for all of us, it's this: how are we going to guide it?